Philadelphia had the ability in the vet, especially, where 11,000 people could sound like 60,000 when they wanted to, and people that weren't from Philly hated that, and I know visiting players hated it, but I loved it.
Curt, I'm now our company is based in Philadelphia, and I'm getting a great understanding of who these people are. If you show up, you go to work, they're going to love you. Listen, you're some of the most misunderstood fans there are?
Well, no, they're not misunderstood. People hate them because they're Philly fans. They're not misunderstood. They're passionate. They're vulgar. They're mean. They're pissy. They're all the things as a home player you dream of having behind you. And here's the thing. Unfortunately, for a lot of players, if you're not good, they don't like you. And I don't have a problem with that. I mean,
that's why guys like that succeed. And that's why guys like this, in my opinion, you talk about the top 20 big game pictures over the last 25 years. How do not you mention the name Curt Schilling? Curt Schilling, NLCS MVP, World Series MVP in the desert with the Snakes. And you got pencil pushers are defining his resume by sitting back and making their vote kind of matter. And it's all because of Curt's politics. This guy right here, you talk about big game pitchers, here he is. It's Curt Schilling. Curt, thank you so much
for taking time.
Hey, wait a minute. I don't hear any chickens.
Hold on. I am absolutely digging the throwback Leroy Selman, Tampa Bay. That is so badass.
I love it, man. Dude, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, Curt, I had a guy say this and ask this question to go out to you here. Your time in Philly. Take us to that time in Philly. What was it for you? Your time in Philly was what?
Almost a dream come true. We didn't win. And ultimately, my greatest memories in the game were, dogpiling on the field after a win. But it's really hard to put into words because it was so many different things. I got married. All my kids were born there. Bought my first home there. My career began, for the most part, there. We had 1993. When you have a team that loses the World Series and the town still has a parade for you, I mean, you're something special. And I had a bond with those fans that, to this day, I cherish, because I enjoy playing for hard-ass fans, because I knew I was going to leave it all out there. And I knew that they would make everybody else I played with leave it all out there or quit. And that was fun. I love those expectations. Really, obviously, very disappointed that the team never made a committed effort after 93 to put together a winner. Didn't make trades they could have made. Didn't get players they could have gotten. But so many great things came out of there. Terry Francona and I met. And gosh, Mike spent most of my career after that with him. So many great memories, so many great friends. Just lost another one in David West this last week. But Philadelphia had the ability in the vet, especially, where 11,000 people could sound like 60,000 when they wanted to. And people that weren't from Philly hated that. And I know visiting players hated it, but I loved it.
Curt, I'm now our company is based in Philadelphia, and I'm getting a great understanding of who these people are. If you show up, you go to work, they're going to love you. Listen, you're some of the most misunderstood fans there are?
Well, no, they're not misunderstood. People hate them because they're Philly fans. They're not misunderstood. They're passionate. They're vulgar. They're mean. They're pissy. They're all the things as a home player you dream of having behind you. And here's the thing. Unfortunately, for a lot of players, if you're not good, they don't like you. And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, when you think about where it's gone, where professional sports has gone, and the amount of money a hardworking family has to spend to go to one game, yell all you want, man. I mean, it was a very special place to play. Boston was very much the same way. People ask me, which fans were better. Both fan bases, Boston and Philadelphia, were heaven for home players and hell for visitors. And I cherish being able to take the mound and stand and take the ball and stand on the mound in front of both those sets of fans. And then Arizona was special because I grew up there.
Let me take you to another chapter, the Boston chapter. Does the Boston chapter define your winning and being in that environment to finally deliver something that fan base had never seen before? I mean, you got to think about it, Curt. The Cubs, the Red Sox. I mean, even when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, you know what a great thing that was down Broad Street. I mean, but to do that for that community, what did that mean?
On a personal level, for me, I think, I hope I can say this, I think it backed up the fact that I didn't talk shit. If I said it, I was gonna get it done. And I remember a very vivid moment when Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer were at my house trying to recruit me to come to Boston, and my wife Shonda had strategically placed my 2001 World Series trophy between their chairs. And, they were kind of haggling a little bit about money, and Larry Lucchino was haggling about money. I said, listen, guys, I said, come on, this is stupid. I said, you want me to go there and help you win one of those because you can't do it on your own. You can't beat the Yankees, and I can. I said, so let's stop haggling and bullshitting about the money. Let's just say that if we win the World Series in the first 3 years of this deal, I get a $2 million bonus, and you give me another year on my contract. And because ultimately that's why I was going there. And so I didn't have a problem with that. That never bothered me. I remember I went out before the Yankee playoff series and said, I can't think of anything more enjoyable than making 55,000 people from New York shut their mouths. And I went out in game one and got my ass handed to me, and they didn't shut up, boy. They were loud, and I heard things about my mother that I've never heard before. But it was deserved. I loved it. I relished being in that. And I always did things, and you can remember back in my days in Philly, I would say and do some things from a pressure perspective that would, in a lot of people's minds, were like, why do you want to put that much more pressure? I said, you know what? No one's ever going to come close to putting the pressure on me that I put on myself. So your expectations are going to fall far short of anything I ever expect from myself. So, ultimately it came down to that, right? The decision was, and I knew that I had the Yankees in the wings in 03. My wife wanted to go to New York. And I knew that as soon as the window closed on the Red Sox 72 hours, that the Yankees were going to be in my house. And I was talking to Sean, we were talking it through, and I said, well, so here's the deal. We can wait till tomorrow. New York will show up, and they'll let me fill in the check. And we can go win 28, 27, 28, and 29 in New York. Or we can go to Boston and do something that no one's ever seen before. I said, I like the thought of doing something no one's ever seen before. I mean, it's a win-win in my mind either way. But I got there, and I realized that there were guys. I mean, Kevin Millar talked about the fact that in 03, he didn't want the ball hit to him late in the game because he didn't want to be Bill Buckner.
Wow.
And I was like, that shit stops now. Right. I mean, so the saying that I came up with was, and I made T-shirts out of it, and I still actually have mine, is why not us? Why can't it be us? Why can't we be the team? And we were so talented and so deep. Our World Series was the Yankee series. And I can remember vividly, we're down 3-0, and they just beaten us like 115-2. And A-Rod had like 9 homers that game and drove in. It was ridiculous, and we just got embarrassed. And we were talking, and I said, listen, guys, this is how it needs to be, or it should be. We don't have to win 4 games or 3 or 2 or what. We need to win the top of the first tomorrow. I said, if you look around the room and at the talent in this team, in this room, if we play a half inning at a time, if you go out and pitch the bottom of the first and win that inning, win that half inning, and win the time, we won't lose. We can't.
Curt, did you guys get in the circle prior to that game 4, did you guys all say, let's win the first inning? Did you guys just say
that? We literally played that way for the next 8 games. We won 8 in a row.
Let's win every inning.
It just win the half inning. Win the half inning. Win the at bat. You make it out, make it a 9-pitch at bat. And if you go back and watch that series, that's exactly what happened. I mean, don't forget, we were down in the 9th again.
Oh, yeah.
Game 5.
Yeah.
And, they had one thing over everybody else but us. Mariano Rivera didn't intimidate us. And God bless him, greatest closer that ever lived. I think he's a phenomenal human being. But I played in 2 clubs, Boston and Arizona, where Mariano Rivera wasn't, oh, my God, it's Mo. And that became what it was. And then as soon as we won Game 5, everything changed. I mean, I didn't know I was going to pitch Game 6 until Game 5. But I can remember Wakefield, Derek Lowe, and I, on the night of Game 5, when it went extra innings, we were walking. We just said, screw it. We put our spikes on. We're available. We're ready. And we walked to the bullpen, and the place just went nuts in Fenway as we were walking across the field. And I'm in my head, I'm thinking, my God, if they lose this game, it's all on them. And then, Game 6 comes around, and weird shit happens, and we end up beating them again pretty handily. And
did you ever think, Curt, you weren't gonna finish it out?
Oh yeah. I didn't.
Even when you were injured, did you ever go like this? I don't know if I'm gonna go.
Dan, I didn't think after Game 1 I was going to be able to pitch again because I couldn't. I mean,
you couldn't stand.
Well, I went out there and we tried to shoot. You remember all the stuff? Tried different shoes and wraps and all this other stuff and my tendon was dislocating every time I threw the ball, and I could feel it and I could actually hear it. Well, I mean, that was just an embarrassment what I did in Game 1, and that was probably the lowest point of my career.
Oh wow!
Because that was the game I was brought there to pitch.
Yeah.
That specific game was the game I was brought there to pitch, and I failed. And I was devastated. And then 2 days later, Dr. Morgan walks in and he goes, hey, man, listen. And I'm out. I'm not pitching Game 6 at the point. He said, I went to a morgue last night, or I don't know what it was. He said, and I was messing around with this cadaver, and I think I found out something we can do. And I was like, let's go. And 10 minutes later, I'm laying on the trainer's table with my ankle up, and he's stitching my skin down to the bone on my ankle. And guys are walking in like gagging, getting sick.
It's fucking awesome.
Dude, I stood up and I was like, I'm walking around like, dude, I can do this. I went out and I started playing catch, and I was like, yeah, we're good, man. We're good. So they actually took the stitches back out, and then we redid it the day of the game. And I can remember being in the moment I knew in Game 1 I was in trouble was when I went to hit the top step of the dugout to walk the bullpen, and my tendon dislocated. I felt it. And I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. Game 6, when I hit the top step, everything stayed in place, and I was like, all right. And I got loose, and it stayed there, and I had a little zip on the ball, and I could command a little bit. And I remember the thing I remember, and I'm a Christian. I've been a Christian, born again since 1997. The thing I can remember most vividly is I had a moment before the game with our pastor. We had chapel before the games, and I missed it because I was doing my pregame stuff. And I had asked him to stay behind. And I'm talking probably 6:30 for an 8 o'clock game. I went up to see Walt Day was his name. And I sat down, and I've told this story a very few times, but I just started crying. I was just, and Walt just sat there, didn't say anything. And I mean, I'm talking bawling. And this is an hour and a half before first pitch. And he's like, what's on your mind? I said, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to go to him and ask him for a favor. I mean, it's always been a relationship of convenience for me. So there's an enormous amount of guilt. And he looks at me and goes, that's not up to you, man. That's not up to you. And like you hear people say that weight off your shoulders. I'm saying this on my children's name. If you watch the video of that that game that night, you'll see me 15 different times on the field laughing, smiling. Nobody on the planet was more at ease than I was on that baseball field.
That's crazy. That's one of the biggest moments.
And I get chills just saying it.
Oh, it's in baseball history.
Well, but I experienced faith at its very essence. I'm standing in the middle of Yankee Stadium. There's 55,000 people from New York, and they all shut up because I stuck it up their butts for 7 innings. The umpires made the right calls, and 86 years of BS is gone. And now we're at 3-3 going to Game 7, and we knew. I'll tell you a funny story. Game 7 comes out, and starting with Game 4, we had watched Miracle before each game.
1980 U.S. men's hockey.
Yep. Game 7, we're in the Yankee clubhouse watching it, and Theo comes in with his phone, and it's Jim Craig.
Oh, my God. It's great.
Yes. And he had called us, and he's like, boys, it's all on you. You win or lose, it's on you tonight. Just love it. Have fun. I mean, it was just like one of those surreal moments.
That's right. He's a Boston College guy.
Yep. And so he calls us. We go out there, and we absolutely wipe the floor with them. And we knew. I mean, that was it. We knew after that series. No disrespect to the Cardinals, because that was a great team. We knew they could. We weren't worried about the Cardinals winning the World Series. We did not think the Cardinals could beat us a single game.
You guys dominated. It was complete domination. Curt, what was the desert to you, and what you and Randy did out there? What was that? Just the cherry on top of everything? When you guys went there? I mean, because like you said, Mariano Rivera, the Yankees, Gonzalez gets the game winner. You're the MVP
in spring training that year, Jerry Colangelo predicted that Luis Gonzalez would hit a grand slam in the bottom of the ninth of Game 7 against the Yankees to win the World Series.
That's insane.
And Gonzo comes up with the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth. But anyway, that first of all, that was in my career, that was probably the longest stretch of focus I ever had. That 2001 and 2002, it was again, I don't want to. The sport is hard. I'm not disrespecting anybody, but I don't think anybody in the history of the game ever did what RJ and I did for a 2-year period from a domination. We won 90 games. And we struck out, 1,200 hitters.
That's insane.
We threw close to 1,000 innings.
Had to be one of the best 1-2 combos in baseball history.
Again, statistically, for 2 years, I think we did. No one could ever touch us.
You know what? I would only go maybe Curt, like J.R. Richard and Nolan Ryan.
Even if you go back, and because I've done it, like I lived and breathed the game. So if anytime I say something like that, I don't do it flippantly.
Oh, got it.
I looked at Koufax and Drysdale, and I looked at Richard and Ryan, and I think at the time I felt like, from a statistical perspective, we did things no one had ever done before. We finished 1-2 in the Cy Young. Randy won it both years unanimously, which he should have. I won the Players' Choice Award both years because that's voted on September 1st. And RJ went out and won like 20 games in freaking September and struck out like 500 guys both years to win it. But and then you had 9/11, and then I grew up in Phoenix, so that was very special to me. And think about this, right? I mean, you're a kid, you dream of doing all these other things. I'm 24 years old, 1991. I'm in the weight room in the Astrodome, and Roger Clemens comes over to me for 45 minutes. He wears my ass out. Goes up one side, down the other. You're cheating the game. You're cheating yourself. And he said something that to this day has resonated with me. He said, when you walk out on that field, the name on the back of your jersey, that's not yours. That's your dad's. And I never forgot that. Now here I am, 2001, Game 7 of the World Series, Schilling versus Clemens. 9/11, one of the greatest World Series that had ever been played. We just had 3 games in New York that went perfect. If you were a fan of the game and you hated the Yankees, the World Series went exactly how you would want it to go. They won all 3 in New York. The city was on, lit up after 9/11. We came back. Andy Pettitte was tipping all of his pitches in Game 6. We beat them 16 to something. And I can remember I did a pregame Game 7 with Kevin Kennedy. And I said, I guarantee you, if we win tonight, we will be World Series champions. And he's like, what? No. He's all freaking out. And they went over and they asked Jeter, and Jeter's like, what do you think what is he supposed to say? And Mike Stanton was like all pissed off and whatnot. But I'll tell you two moments that resound, and I don't know if we're pushed up for time, but two moments that were resounding and that will always stick with me was, the first was, I was sitting on the bench before I went to the bullpen, and everything I did on the day I pitched happened the same way, whether it was spring training or the World Series. And I'm sitting on the bench with Brian Matuzis, Jeff Matuzis, our bullpen catcher, who's a phenomenal human being. And there's 60,000 people in Bank One Stadium, and there's white pom-poms, and you can feel the stadium kind of vibrating. And I'm sitting there, in my head, I had a conversation. My father popped into my head and said, hey, what are you so anxious for? And I'm responding like, well, it's Game 7 of the World Series. He said, you're going to go out and do tonight what you've been doing your whole life, and tomorrow you're going to wake up and take the kids to school. What's the problem? Have fun. And I look over at Jeff, and he's our bullpen catcher, sweating like he's in the middle of the Sahara. He's sweating bullets. And I looked at him, I'm like, dude, what the hell are you sweating for? He goes, you're not nervous? I'm scared to death. I said, dude, you're the bullpen catcher. You're going to warm me up and sit on your ass for 9 innings. What are you nervous about? And he just kind of laughed, and we walked down to the bullpen. And then the other moment I remember is 8th inning. I remember after 6 innings, the only time in 2 years that I lost my focus, after the 6th inning, I walked off the mound. I'd only faced 18 hitters. And I said, I'm gonna face 27 hitters in Game 7 of the World Series. Like, it was the first time I'd gotten out of my thought train. Next inning, I screwed it up. 8th inning, I had punched out Soriano twice, and I got him into a 2-strike count, and I was going to go split, and I went split, and I threw a beautiful split, and he crushed it. And I knew as soon as he hit it, it was gone, and it was a bomb. And if you watch the pitch was a spectacular pitch. He crushes it, and I don't know why, but for some reason, every time you turn around, you watch a home run go, I turned around to my left for some reason, and as I did it, my peripheral vision caught Mo getting up in the dugout, in the bullpen, taking his jacket off. And in my head, I'm like, I just lost the World Series. And I was just devastated. And then, the 9th inning happens, and Gracie singles. And I'll tell you, if you're a fan of baseball, if you go back and watch that bottom of the 9th, it all happened in less than 5 minutes. It was
electric.
It was beyond belief. But all of that happened, the 2 runs and everything happened inside of under 5 minutes. It was that fast. And I'm sitting on the bench, and Gracie leads off with a single off Mo, pulls his hands in, hits a jam shot up the middle. And I'm sitting behind RJ, and he's 7 feet tall and 9 feet wide. So I'm like trying to watch the game under him. Gracie gets the hit. Well, I got to go back to my seat. So I'm watching the whole inning, like behind RJ, trying to look through his legs and look around, and it's just bang, 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 and all of a sudden we're on the field celebrating.
Curt, I've got to bring this up. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you, I'm a former professional athlete. You are as well. I can't believe you're being held out of the Hall of Fame because of the shirt you're wearing with all of the things that you've accomplished. One of the top 20 postseason pitchers, 200 wins, low 3 ERA, one of the greatest big game pitchers of all time. I asked Dave Stewart, Stu, I'm getting on Schilling. He goes, dude, you talk about giving the pill to a guy and you need 9 innings won, he's your guy. And I'm going, he goes, it's a shame. And I saw what you said the other day, or a couple months ago or a year ago. You said, take my name out of this. I don't even want to go through this stuff any longer. Just your thought on the process of how people with pencils and pens decide your resume.
Well, let's begin with the fact that it's an incredibly flawed process. All right. And to be clear, let me just state right up front, if I had a Hall of Fame, I wouldn't be in it.
Why?
Right? Well, because we'll play a little game. I play this with any sports person. All right. I'm going to name a name to you, and you tell me Hall of Fame or no. Okay. Mariano Rivera.
Slam dunk.
Tony Gwynn.
Slam dunk.
Mike Mussina. But that's it. If you have to wait and pause, no. And that's me.
He only had 120 game year, final year.
But again, if you have to think about it, no. That's my Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but Curt, you have moments in baseball history.
I totally get that. And for the Hall of Fame as it stands statistically, I fit somewhere in there. But my Hall of Fame I wouldn't be in. But this whole thing that's happened.
You think Madison Bumgarner's a Hall of Famer?
No.
And so, because he kind of had these great postseasons.
And I said that probably too flippantly. I need to look at his numbers. But I go back to that, right? If I have to look into the numbers, to me, no. That would be my Hall of Fame because it wouldn't be all the people that are in it, right? But I played with Hall of Famers. Scott Rowland's a Hall of Famer. Dale Murphy's a Hall of Famer.
You think Pedro is more than you?
I think Pedro has
as many wins as you.
Pedro had the greatest. And so I came up with my own statistic to rate pitchers.
Those 2 years he had the 1-something ERA was insanity.
He had the greatest 3-year run in the history of baseball by a wide margin.
It was like Koufax stuff.
It was way better than Koufax when you compare him to the eras. That's the thing. Pedro had the greatest 3-run season.
You think Kershaw's a Hall of Famer?
Yo, absolutely, yeah.
Even with his postseason failures?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because
he will not have as many wins as you.
Well, but I'll go back to 3,000 strikeouts. One of the few things that pitchers.
Well, you have 3,100.
Right, but 3,000 strikeouts is a thing. Like strikeouts, walks and hit innings pitch. Numbers like that. I pay attention to, but the whole thing became a popularity contest, and because I kept saying to people, I haven't gotten a hitter out in 8 years, but my vote total changes every year. How does that work? Right? And I also know the writers, right? There aren't a lot of Tim Kirchens and Jason Starks and Rob Bradfords, good, honest, integrity-filled people who love the sport. There are far more Dan Shaughnessy's and Michael Felgers and just phony-ass frauds who have turned
Dan Lebitards.
Absolutely. What they've done is they've made themselves part of the story instead of reporting it. And they feel, and listen, I've met a lot of fans that are far smarter than any beat writer, many beat writers I ever was around. There's nothing about them and not all of them, obviously, nothing about them that is expert. They just have access and they feel like that empowers them. And what is it? There was a poll 2 years ago, 86% of sports writers define themselves as liberal. So, but here's the thing. I'm very proud of a couple things in my career. Jamie Moyer and I are the only two players to ever sweep the humanitarian awards. Lou Gehrig, Roberto Clemente, Branch Rickey, 5 or 6 awards. Those same guys are the ones that voted on those awards. Those same guys. So all of those guys who stood in front of my locker, win or lose, I was at my locker every game, and who loved the fact that I wasn't a yes/no guy. They'd ask me a question, I'd give them a quote. They'd take that quote and turn it into an article because, I said something. They loved that when I played. And when I retired, it became a problem. And baseball, for the most part, has gone. I mean, I've gotten nothing from baseball. I love teaching and working with young pitchers. I've worked with some teams on the draft and stuff like that.
But Curt, how do you do this? How do you take the All-Star game out of Atlanta the year that Henry Aaron dies,
right,
and move it into a more progressive state in Colorado with tougher laws because you're not educated?
No, because you're pandering to an audience that doesn't watch you anyway. The stands in most baseball stadiums, they're not full of liberals. Baseball is a conservative game. It always has been. It's a grassroots Americana game of history. And if anything we've learned in the last 10 years, liberals hate the history of this country. I mean, you look at baseball was a huge part of the color breakdown and the color barrier breakdown. They came very late to the party, but they came to the party. And now you hear. I'm actually doing an article for Fox, and I was talking about racism in sports. There isn't racism in sports. The people that cover sports are racist. Because you hear about baseball being a racist sport when it's 50-some% white and I think 10% black. I don't hear about the NFL that's 82% black, or the NBA that's 78% black being racist. It's all about, and so I became, with a couple omissions, if you omit words from a comment, or you add them, or you interpret them your way, you can turn anybody into a racist, homophobic, misogynistic, whatever. None of those things. Think about this, Dan. I played 22 years. I never had a teammate, never had an opponent, never had a fan, never had a clubhouse guy, coach, anybody in the game ever say anything other than I talk too much. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I do. But nobody. And now all of a sudden I'm this closet conspiracy theory guy who, I made a comment 5-6 years ago about that Q movement when I said, I haven't followed this, but this is kind of actually interesting to read about. I was a member of Q at that point, apparently. And so when the media can buy ink by the barrel and go and check, and there's no accountability, they can do whatever they want. They can,
Absolutely.
And you watch them ruin lives. I mean, how many athletes are you seeing go back to their high school tweets and delete them for things they said when they were 17?
Absolutely. Curt, I'm up against the wire here.
Yep.
I hope we can do this again, man, because you and I could talk for hours here about baseball, life, and politics. I think you're a compelling human.
I appreciate it, my friend.
Dude, I really loved it, and thank you so much for
always
finding
a pleasure,
time
Dan.
for me.
You take care of yourself.
Can you do it again, please?
Thank you.
You got it. Appreciate it. Curt Schilling. Man, I love that. Dude, that was great stuff there. Somebody said that he hated Philly. I didn't get that. Where in the world? He loved his time. It prepped him for what he did in Boston. By the way, he thanked all of you guys for the comments and such. Man, Curt Schilling doesn't look at himself as a Hall of Famer. That's why he is a Hall of Famer. Dude, I mean, NLCS MVP with the Phillies, World Series MVP with the Snakes, 200 wins. By the way, you're never going to see a 300 winner in the history of baseball because most guys go only 5 2/3. You're never